Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. Today I'm here for a Cricut tutorial. Cricut has offered a lot of new features in recent updates to their software, and today I'm going to talk about the offset feature. And I want to be sure that you know that I'm using version 7.8.167 of the Cricut software, so if you're not in this version, you may not see these features available. I created this cut file in a video that I did last week, and I'll link you up to that video if you want to see more. But I mentioned in that video that I would do a tutorial on how to do these outline letters using the new features in the Cricut. And that feature is the offset feature. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to need to do is add some text to our canvas. And here is what the canvas looks like in Cricut. I'm just going to hit the text key. It'll pop up an automatic box that just says text. I'm going to change it to what I want it to say. When I created my cut file, it said "but wait," so that's why I use the word "but" to kind of show you how I started creating my own cut file. Now, these letters are not shapes, so we have to separate out these letters so that they can be individual shapes. So you saw me hit that drop down up there that said to ungroup the letters, and now each letter can be edited as a letter, but what I'm going to do with it is use it as a shape. So I am going to select just one of these letters at a time, and I opened up this offset menu. Now there's some options in this menu that you can use, and we'll talk a little bit more about those options as we go along. So I just clicked what the options were that were already set up, and you can see that we have this black outline now around a gray letter. So the gray letter was our original letter. I'm going to turn it a different color so it's easier for you to see. And that black outline is called the offset. That offset can be used as a shadow layer to other designs, but that's a topic for another video. Now, what I'm going to do with the original letter and that offset is select them both together, and then I'm clicking this slice feature down here in the bottom corner. And think of the slice feature as a cookie cutter. My original letter there on top, whatever is on top, any shape on top, is going to be the cookie cutter, and the bottom underneath is going to be like the cookie dough. And when you cut it, you'll have the outline of the cookie cutter, which is this outline letter down here, but you'll also have that inner part of the cookie cutter. So that was too big for what I wanted to do, so I'm going to do this all again. In this sizing box, I'm going to choose 0.09 inches, and I have the corner option turned on, and then I hit apply, and that is going to create what looks like an outline around my letter, but it's not an outline yet until we select both of those and hit that slice feature. And then as I drag these pieces apart, you can see that I have, like I said, that cookie cutter outline that got cut out. And that looks like a good size and scale for the project that I want. So I'm going to repeat these steps for each of these letters. I go ahead and select the letter. I go up to my offset menu, and luckily that offset menu will save the settings that you last used. So when you're doing individual letters, you know all those settings will be the same each time. And I offset both the U and the T, and then I selected those individual T pieces and U pieces and used the slice feature. And so now once I pull all of these bits apart, I have outline letters for each of the letters in the word cut file that I'm going to create. I'm going to delete all of these extra pieces that I don't need, although you could keep those and cut those out of pattern paper to pop into these outlines like puzzle pieces if you want to do things like that. So let's continue creating this cut file. I am going to align these letters. I did it wrong the first time, so what you want to do is select all the letters and click Align Bottom, and that will make sure all your letters are straight across the bottom. Of course, you could have your letters offset or whatnot, and I've done that with other words before. But if you want them straight, that's an easy way to get them straight. So now I'm going to select the letter, and then I'm going to use the arrow key on my keyboard to slowly nudge this letter sideways. Now, I could select these letters individually and move them around, but you'll see later that that can create a problem. Now, when I get these letters nudged up against each other, you'll see that there could be a little bit of gap and stuff between the letters. So here I'm moving the T, and like I said, you could grab this letter and just drag it around, but if you drag it around, you might lose that bottom alignment again. So if you do that, make sure you go ahead and select everything and hit that Align Bottom from the Align menu, and then you'll have your letters straight again. So once I have all my letters overlapping at least a little bit, then I can select them all and hit that weld feature down in the bottom. And that is going to stick those letters together, and now they are all one shape. And when I cut it out on my Cricut, I'll be able to peel it off my mat as all one shape. So you can do the same thing with any shape that you're working with. And luckily, Cricut now has a lot more shapes that they're offering in their software. So in my cut file, I had some kind of arrow shapes that I just created out of triangles. So you do the exact same step. You create a triangle, I resized it a little bit, and then I rotated it. And if you hold down the Shift key while you're rotating, it will kind of snap into certain rotations that can help keep them straighter. Now you saw me just use the offset button to do that, but I wanted to show you here. Here's what that rounded option in the offset menu will look like. Instead of having pointy triangles, you can get gently rounded edges to your triangles. But since I did all of my letters with a square edged offset, I'm going to do my triangles with that same sharp edge offset as well. And I'm doing the same thing with these. I'm using that slice feature to create these outlines to these triangles. Now I want to share a word of caution here. Because I created this triangle bigger than I wanted it to be, if I try to resize it at this point, the thickness of the line of the triangle will no longer match the thickness of the lines of my letters. So if you're going to be doing multiple shapes and piecing them together, you want to make sure they're all sized to the correct size ahead of time. So I just went ahead and did that. I resized my triangle and recreated my frame so that now the thickness of my triangle matches the thickness of my letters. And now I'm just going to copy and paste these triangles so that I have at least 3 of them. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. My software was running a little bit slow, and some of my some of my shapes started disappearing on me as I was working, so I had to get the software to behave a little bit better. Once I get all my triangles to behave, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to align these. I'm going to select them all, and instead of aligning them at the bottom point, I'm going to use the Align feature to align them vertically. So that's going to basically align them in a straight line through their centers. And if we zoom in here a little bit, you can get a better view of these triangles. And there's a little bit of an optical illusion going on here where the triangle closer to the word looks bigger than the triangle off to the end. But trust me, they're all the same size. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the triangles and nudge them with my arrow keys until they overlap just right. I don't want the point of that arrow sticking out beyond the flush end of the triangle. So I'm going to make sure if I go too far, I'm going to use the arrow key to back it up a little bit. And then once I have those arrows aligned, I will select them all, weld them together. And now I have this arrow piece to my cutout and the word piece to my cutout. And I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to go ahead and align those again with that aligned vertically so that that center line goes through them all the same. And then I'm going to nudge that triangle piece up to my letter B, again, doing the same thing, making sure that that point doesn't go past the flush edge of the B, and I will weld those together. And if I zoom out here a little bit and drag this piece around, you can see now, oh, I'm resizing it. At this point, you can resize it, but if you go too small, just know that the thickness of your letters can get a little too thin to be practical. So you want to work in a size that's pretty close to what you're going to use as the end result. You can always make it bigger, no bigger than your cutting mat, of course, but if you make it too much smaller, you can get your lines to be too thin. So that is the basic process. Of course, I repeated all of this with the word wait and some more arrows to finish up that cut file. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, please do drop me a message because I will respond to you. And if there are other Cricut tutorials you'd like to see, let me know because Cricut has a lot of new features right now and I'm exploring the fun that I can have with them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an artful day.